Hey there, music maker. Has the term chord inversions ever left you feeling upside down? If so, today's lesson is just for you, my friend. We're going to talk about what a chord inversion is, how to make some on the guitar, and how you might be able to apply them to your own playing to get some use out of this extremely common theoretical topic on the guitar. Before we talk about what an inversion actually is, we need to know how to construct a triad. Now, if you don't know how to construct triads, I have a lesson right up here that's going to show you exactly how to do that on guitar. But let's go ahead and give a brief overview of that concept here, just so that we're all on level footing for today's lesson. So a triad is the simplest chord that exists out there. It's a 3-note chord, right? And a lot of triads that we talk about, we kind of think about them in terms of diatonic triads. So triads that are simply derived from the major scale. Now, to review what's in that lesson up here, we've got 7 individual triads that can be made from the major scale. And then back to home. So we don't actually need all of those today. We're just going to be using the first triad from the major scale, the G major scale, I should say. And we're going to be messing with this G major triad. Now, everything we talk about with inversions here today is luckily going to apply to all of those other chords. So the G major triad, if we look at it, this is what we call a root position G major triad. And that simply means that we've got the root note of the triad in the lowest voice. So if we construct this triad from the G major scale, we're simply starting on G, skipping the A to get the B note, and then skipping the C to get the D note. G, B, D. That's the spelling of our root position G major triad. Now, you may be wondering, okay, that's cool, but what is an inversion? So in order to make our first inversion, we actually just take that lowest voice, the G note, and put it on the top of the chord to kind of reorder the spelling. So from low to high, we're now left with B, D, G. So that G note is now on top. And there are 2 ways that we can do that. I moved up the neck here to get this nice kind of what I would call a D shape kind of triad. But you can also stay down there in your F shape and then just take this G note and put it on the top string. So there are a lot of ways to create inversions on the guitar. That can be overwhelming at first, but just stick with me for a sec. So root position here, first inversion with our B note in the lowest voice. Now, there's a second inversion, and that's the only inversion that's left for triads. So there, we take our B note and put it on top. So that's one way to play your second inversion. It's simply just the D shape, right? So we've got D, G, B as our spelling for that chord now. Or, if you want to stay on that same set of strings, you can just move it up and play a bar shape at the 12th fret. So to review all in order, root position G, first inversion G, second inversion G. So now we know how to make our triad inversions on a root position major chord shape on the D through the B strings, right? But let's go through the rest of the string sets here. I'm going to put some tab up on the screen and we can see what all of our triad inversions look like on the G through the E set of strings. I think the top 4 strings are the most useful places to put these triads to work because, like I said in my root position triads video, the top 4 strings are where you're going to be using these triads for chord melodies and solo boxes, arpeggio shapes, and things of that like. So the top 4 strings are definitely worth mastering before you move on to the other strings. But never fear, I'm going to be showing you all of these triad shapes across all strings on the guitar here real quick. So if we start with our root position triad, on the top 3 strings, we have to start all the way here at the 12th fret. So that's our root position triad. And then to find our first inversion, it's that one that we played a second ago with the B note in the bass, B, D, G. And then our D shape, D, G, B for second inversion. So now, let's go ahead and work our way down the guitar and start with the A through the G string set of inversions here. So we've got root position right there, first inversion, and then second inversion. Now the lowest set of strings. That one probably looks familiar because it's just the bottom of a regular G chord. And you're going to start to see these shapes and connections as you make your own triads across the guitar. So first inversion, and then second inversion. So now, from low to high on the guitar, I'm going to play these inversions on all of the string sets for G major. So there you have it, my friend. All of the G major triads that you can make across all strings on the guitar. Now, a lot of you out there are probably wondering, well, how do I do all of this for minor and diminished triads like you showed, Hayes? Well, let's go ahead and dive straight into that, okay? Well, if this is our major triad shape, to make an A minor triad, we slide that up 2 frets, and then we need to lower our third to a minor third there. And that's the minor shape that you're going to be using on this string set for all other minor chords. So B minor and E minor. So theoretically, if you know how to make all of your A minor triad inversions, you can move that up to your B minor and E minor. And just a little side note, if you sign up for the Hayes Griffin Guitar Club, link below in the description, I'll have PDFs for all of these triad inversions available with this lesson. Okay, so let's go ahead and make our A minor triad inversions on the D through the B string sets and then the next highest set. So there's our root position A minor triad. That's what your first inversion looks like. And then second inversion. So your second inversion is just the regular A minor chord, but you just play those 3 strings. So now if we do that on the top 3 strings, we've got root position, first inversion, C, E, A, and then second inversion, E, A, C. And if you notice, this one looks strikingly like a D minor chord, right? If you know that from first position. And you're going to start to make these connections, like I said, to all of your other chord shapes. Now, let's start with the lowest set of strings and work our way back up. So that's your root position A minor triad right there. First inversion, second inversion. Now our root position on the A through the G is going to look like this. First inversion, and then second inversion. All right. Now we just have one more to go, the diminished triad. So let's start with our D through the B string set like we've been doing here. That's what your root position diminished triad looks like. Then first inversion. And then second inversion. On the top 3 strings, there's your root position. There's your first inversion, or you can play it down the octave there. Looks like a D7 chord. And then, second inversion. So here's what that diminished triad looks like in root position on the lowest strings. A fret between each finger, it's kind of a weird grab. First inversion. And then second inversion. So we've got our root position here on the A string. First inversion. And then second inversion. Now I'll say this, those diminished shapes are going to be a little less useful than all of the other ones, but I think it's a really great tool to kind of see the difference between those shapes, the minor chords and the major chords. It helps us measure intervals, right? Because if we notice, if we compare, let's say, the G major triad in root position to the A minor triad shape, we can see that that finger is the difference, right? And by the same token, the difference between the G major and the F sharp diminished, we flatten our third and then we flatten our fifth. So that's how you make a G diminished, right? So I think that's a really great thing to kind of be mindful of all of the different shifts that happen between all of the inversions as you're playing through them on the guitar. That's really what's going to help you gain mastery of these triad shapes. And this leads me into our discussion about how are these things actually useful to us on the guitar, right? Well, if we go back to our G major triad shapes, I really like to view these a couple different ways. So first off, it's great to see each of these triad shapes as a little box to play melodic phrases out of. In my opinion, arpeggio tones, triads, or chords played as single notes are the best approach for beginning improvisers to play solos than scale shapes, for example, because these notes, those are the notes that make up a G chord, so naturally they would be the best ones to play as melody notes over top of a G chord. So that being said, if you're rocking a solo over a G chord, you can start to sprinkle in some other scale tones, but kind of see this as like home base for a lot of your melodic phrases. You can play really cool little phrases there, or up the neck out of this shape. And a lot of you might recognize this shape from Tony Rice's kind of signature phrases. It's right out of that shape. A lot of Tony's phrases down here too. So you'll start to see a lot of connections when you transcribe your favorite solos and you start to work out these triad shapes. You'll start to see these kind of patterns creep up and you'll realize, oh my God, Tony Rice was actually just using that triad shape with the minor pentatonic scale that surrounded it to kind of craft his solo. All right, my friend, there you have it. All of our triad inversions in the key of G major. Now, I know that we didn't cover the B minor chord, the C chord, the D chord, or the E minor chord, but like I said, you should be able to take those triad shapes that I gave you here today and the inversions and run them through all of the other chords. Now, if that's something that sounds a little daunting to you, never fear, because if you sign up for the Hayes Griffin Guitar Club below, I'm going to include a PDF with this lesson that shows you how to apply all of the triad shapes and inversions that we covered here today to all of those chords that we didn't cover in the video. All right, my friend, thank you so much for checking out this lesson. If you stuck around this long and enjoyed everything, go ahead and give us a like below and hit that subscribe button so you get updates whenever I upload a new lesson here to the channel. I really appreciate you checking out this video. Drop me a comment below and let me know what you think. And until next time, take it easy.